Hello, welcome everybody to this WFO digital encounter. Let me introduce just very briefly the activity and myself. I am José Javier González from the Secretariat team of the World Foundry Organization, and on behalf of the organization and on behalf of the team, we just want to welcome you to this activity. It's a real pleasure for us to be able to offer you this online initiative with this Women in Foundry webinar. They will be introduced just in some minutes, but let me just use this first time for thanking all our participants today. Thank you very much, all of you, for your effort and work just making this kind of initiatives possible. In these times when we miss the international connection and the personal interaction that we have with our colleagues, just being able to use these tools for updating our knowledge on the situation of the sector is just good news for us. So thank you very much. We will be having the opportunity today, as I said, to have an outlook on the situation on our industry with a really exciting panel of experts, of foundry leaders. So I'm sure we all will be enjoying the session. I hope that you also will be enjoying this webinar. Let me introduce also the person that will be leading the whole session. We count today with the presence of Lynn Postle from FOUNDRY TRADE JOURNAL. Lynn is the editor and the publisher of this leading magazine in the global metalcasting industry, which is also one of the lifetime legacy sponsors of the World Foundry Organization. So thank you very much also to you, Lynn, for your work leading this session. And nothing more from my side. Let's hope that we all enjoy. I am sure that we will be enjoying the conversation today. So thank you, Lynn. Please.
Thank you, Jose Javier. And yes, welcome everybody to today's webinar, which is entitled Women in Foundry. But of course, we're going to be talking about much more than just women working in the foundry sector. But we do have three excellent panelists with us this morning. And so let me introduce you to them, please. We have Diana Bogic, who was just the newly appointed General Secretary of the Swedish Foundry Association. We congratulate Diana on the new appointment. I know she has worked with the association since 2016, but has actually been in the cast metals industry a lot longer than that, having worked for SWEDISH FOUNDRY beforehand. We also have with us today Marina Giacopinelli, who is the Director of FUNDIGEX, the casting and foundry suppliers. Marina is known to many. She has worked in the industry for 15.5 years. Previously at the Bilbao Chamber of Commerce as an international trade technician on the outsourcing exchange. Marina has extensive experience helping companies related to the foundry sector in promoting themselves on the international market. Also with us is Lizeth Medina. She's the Senior Manager of Quality and Technical Services at NEENAH Foundry in Wisconsin in the United States. And we thank Lizeth for joining us. We know it's very early there, so thank you for joining us today. Lizeth is responsible for establishing the quality assurance systems and a team that promotes customer satisfaction. She was previously Manager of Technical Services at NEENAH Enterprises, and prior to that, she was the Technical Director at Donsko Incorporated, where she ensured the quality integrity of casting metallurgy at both of the company's foundries. Previously, she was at Wapaka Foundry. She's also a member of the Board of Directors of the Foundry Educational Establishment, where she has served for the last 5 years, and a member of the Board of Directors for the Ductile Iron Society, where she's also served for 5 years. So welcome, Lizeth. I think today's discussions are going to centre around all the developments that are happening in the industry, and certainly have a look at how we can promote the industry to more people, more women, but also more men. Let's face it, we do need more engineers and technicians. So it's important, of course, that we look at promoting women in the society and in the industry, because that's 50% of the population, but we certainly need more technicians and engineers. So it's important that we look at all of those. I'm going to start today with looking at how we enhance leadership skills of young women in the foundry industry. And I think initially I'd like to speak to Lizeth about this. I know you have some particular things that you want to talk to us about. Lizeth actually won the 2019 Step Ahead Award in the Manufacturing Institute and the 2020 Cast Iron Divisional Individual Service Award from the AFS. So congratulations on both of those awards, Lizeth. As we said, you're a member of the board of directors of the Iron Society, and I know that you have mentioned in the past the importance of mentoring, which I think we would all agree is a very important aspect. So in that respect, I just want to talk about role models, and mentoring is such an important way to promote a career and a profession. And yet we still have a very low percentage of women in the foundry industry. So I'm just wondering if we are missing some ideas or missing some tools, or if you have any ideas of how we can work with mentoring and other tools to promote the foundry industry to women.
Yes, hi Lynn, thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon to everybody in Europe. Good morning to everybody here in the other side of the Atlantic. So yes, having the opportunity to, be an honoree for the Step Ahead allowed me to connect with people from other industries and to better understand and engage, what other industries are doing. Women in manufacturing as an overall, I mean, we're a minority. There is about 30% of the workforce in the United States. Women in foundry is about less than 20%. So definitely, there is a need, we're still a minority, and, yes, we're increasing that gap, but it's not going at an exponential pace. And like you were saying in the earlier statement, mentoring only goes so far, right? And, there is also the challenges on whether or not, a newly hired person, female in the industry, is going to find somebody that will want to mentor it, or that she will connect to have a mentor. What other industries are doing, and actually the Manufacturing Institute is putting together a webinar on Women's Day, is with launching different initiatives. One of the ideas that they came up was with employee resource groups. And basically what this is just, it's a formal group that is led by the HR department that focuses on minorities and, diversity. So, in order for this to really have an impact, like a big impact, it needs to be part of the company's culture. The company needs to find that there is a need, and then they need to work towards that. Some larger corporations have implemented that, and it's going to be very interesting to listen to see, how difficult it was for them to launch these groups, and if they have seen improvements, if they have seen numbers that show, that approaching this methodology of having, a resource group where you can go and learn, it may not be a person from your area, but it may be from some other area and can help you to grow. So I think that things like that, and really from, the companies adopting this as hey, this is something that we really need to tackle, that's going to be the only way, how we will increase this gap, and that's what other, manufacturing sectors are starting to do. I don't think it's so much the attraction. I think we do, at least here in the US, we do a pretty decent job with attraction. It's going to be more for the retention portion of things. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about that it's a larger percentage in other manufacturing industries in the US, and that there is like a 10% difference in the foundry sector. And I wonder if you have any ideas on why that would be, and obviously, as you say, we can take some ideas from other industries to look at developing that. And also, if you personally have noticed any barriers to women entering the industry, or if you've experienced that yourself.
So I think that the reason why it's a little bit, it's a little bit lower, the percentage of female on the foundry, is just right now we have so much competition. We have aerospace, we have chemical industry, we have, you name it. There is a lot more sexier industry. So, you know, like that probably is not allowing us to, you know, like to bring a little bit more of just not only females, but younger talent, you know, in general, because we're competing with industries that just by name sound a lot sexier than the foundry. You know, like when you said aerospace and then you said foundry, you know, like I think that the idea is a little bit like, you know, but once that you're able to bring people, you know, I think that that's where we need to, you know, like focuses in strategies so we can retain people. As far as barriers, I mean, there is like a handful of things that, you know, like happen. I think that for me, finding a mentor was a little bit difficult. And I don't think it was, you know, people not wanting to be the mentor. I think it was mostly me, you know, like with the idea that I can do it all. And I couldn't, you know, like I needed advice and I needed to listen and, you know, like, so, and that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying, that the idea of a mentor, it's great. And that's why, because I learned that I needed a mentor later in my career, that I really believe in mentoring and, you know, just in general, supporting, you know, like, and being an advocate for other females in the industry.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing to do, and I think mentoring, whether you're a woman or a man, is important. I think that's something that our industry needs to develop more, so that we can bring fresh blood through, if you like, and new people into the sector as we're developing the skills gap that we know we are. That's something that's very important at all levels. So yeah, I'm heartened to hear that you too are wanting to become a mentor now for other women entering the industry. I think that's most important, to be able to give something back in that way. I just wondered if I can bring Diana in here as well on this aspect, because I know that certainly, you know, new into the role at the Swedish Foundry Association, you must have some ideas on how to encourage young women to enter the industry. And I just wondered if you could pick up a little bit on what Lizeth was saying about that.
Let me unmute. Yes, thank you very much for having me, first and foremost. And yes, I would like to continue a bit more about the role model part that I think is very important, and we as an industry need to be better in portraying female role models. In Sweden, for example, we have so many women in different positions that are great role models. Some of the largest foundries in Sweden have female foundry managers, we have female CEOs, production managers, group leaders, and the list goes on. What we are missing out on is on communicating internally within the industry, but also externally, that these women exist and to show what they're actually doing. And because seeing somebody else do something actually helps you realize that you can do it yourself. So I think that's a very important aspect of it. And in the Swedish Foundry Association, we're actually trying very much to be a driving force and set a good example. One example is that we have a conference called the Foundry Days. And in the Foundry Days, we strive for equal representation between men and women on the stage. For the past couple of years, we've mostly had female moderators. We've had 2 out of 3 keynote speakers have been women. So we, by showing this representation of women on stage, we're actually sending a direct message to the attendees that women are represented at this specific conference in the industry, but also that we as an industry acknowledge their skills and competences. So this has been actually pretty amazing results, because we have increased the number of attending women for each year. So this is just a little way of having more women attending and being shown in the foundry industry in Sweden, at least.
Yeah, I think that is again a real step forward, to be able to have a visual appeal and to show diversity in that way, because for people to want to join an industry, they need to feel that the industry reflects how they look and them. So I think that's a really good step forward.
Absolutely. And I also think that we, just as Lizeth mentioned, we have to change our way of thinking about women as leaders, because in the end, we have to encourage women to go into leadership positions and also give women the opportunity to take on roles as leaders as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that's something, and maybe if we could bring Lizeth and Marina back in on this as well, it is something that I think it's one thing to talk about encouraging people into the sector, but then to have more women in senior positions and at board level, I think is very important. And that's something that I just wonder if Marina has any comments on that as well. I know that she's worked around the world and been at many exhibitions and many shows, and I just wonder if you've noticed any difference in different countries on that.
Sorry. So good afternoon from Spain to everyone. What I wanted to say is that the contact that we normally have with the foundries are with their commercial departments and their marketing departments. So I think that although the women are not, represented there as much as men are, I think that those departments are more representatives for women than other departments within the founder industry. However, I honestly haven't seen very much difference when I'm, on international trade fairs between different countries. I think that in general, the foundry industry is still a man's industry. When I travel with my companies, for example, I think that at most we might be 25% women traveling. So I think there's still much work to do, although I see improvements. I've been working here since 2005, I believe. I've seen improvements, but I think we still have lots of work to do. And I totally agree with Lizeth when you say that this industry might not be as attractive as other industries as a first glance. But on the other hand, when people start working in the founder industry, they tend to stay there. You get attached to it in some way. So I think that we have to work on attracting these new talents, both women as men.
Yes, I agree. It just get under your skin, doesn't it? And you do end up remaining in the industry. And I also agree with you that I've worked in the industry now for many years, and there is a definite change. There certainly are more women now than there ever have been, and I think that there are certainly more opportunities in this sector and in industry in general and engineering in general. So I think that's to be applauded, and also the efforts of organisations like the Swedish Foundry Association and yourself and the WFO in promoting that. I think it's very important moving forward. Oops. As Marina was talking about the technical strength there, I'd like to come on to that now and on a slightly different aspect and look at how, obviously, the past year we've had many problems, as we are aware, in being able to connect and get together, which is why webinars such as this are so important. But there has been a difference in the way companies are doing business now, compared, of course, to 18 months ago, with a lack of trade fairs, inability to travel at the moment. And I'm just wondering, Marina, what differences you've seen in the way companies are promoting themselves now and using new technologies to develop global markets.
I mean, when the pandemic broke loose, I think that we all thought that it was going to be under control in some months, and that we were going to be able to start with all the promotion activities after the summer. So at first, I don't think that the foundries were thinking about it as a priority at all. I mean, it was very far down on their priority list because they had to reorganize. I mean, in Spain, for instance, they didn't even know when the lockdown came in. They didn't even know if they were going to be allowed to produce. So, I mean, promotion got, put aside a bit. But after some months, when we saw that this pandemic was going to stay with us for quite a while, they started to investigate new ways of getting business opportunities. And of course, they were used to visit clients, and through us, for example, participating in trade fairs and trade delegations, B2B events, etc. But when you're not allowed to travel, when you're not allowed to gather, when you're not allowed to display your products on different shows, there's actually, I think, only one way to promote yourself, and it's strengthening your presence online. And actually, I think that we in FUNDIGEX, for example, contacted with specialists and organized courses and organized webinars to create consciousness among our industry in order for them to see the opportunities that the internet could bring them. Because I think that especially the foundries might have for some years ago not seen internet as their medium, but today it's for all of us. You can display all kinds of services and products. And if you're not there with a good, web page or active in social media, when a possible clients are looking for something you can offer, they will simply not find you. So what we did was to actively, encourage them and form them to invest in a better, web page, strengthening their SEO, and trying to contact possible clients through that way. But on the other hand, I need to just say that, of course, we're in a very complicated industry. Normally, a client wants to visit your production plant. They want to see how you produce the parts, and that's not possible now. You can somewhat solve it through virtual tours or videos, but that's connected with another very great problem that I don't know a solution for, but I think that we have to find it, is the audits. I mean, most of the parts need to be audited. And if the audition teams can't travel, how can we solve that? The clients will just stay with their, known suppliers. So I know, or the feedback that I receive from our companies are that it's very difficult at this moment to, it's not difficult to find possible clients. It's very difficult for them to place an order.
Yeah, I think we've all embraced this new way of working, but it is very difficult when you're in a manufacturing position. And you're exactly right. It's not so easy to promote the quality of your parts online, absolutely, or even the ethos of your business. It's very difficult to get that across in a virtual world such as we're operating at the moment. So I think we are all looking forward to the time when we can get beyond this current situation.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely certain that we are. I'm certain that as soon as this situation is under control, I think that we need to be with other humans. I think that we need that connection. I mean, I think that the chemistry between people can actually be a factor when you are deciding between two equal suppliers. We need that.
Yeah, and I think personalities and the importance of that is fundamental, just as you say. I wonder if I could bring Diana in here as well, because obviously that's a very important aspect of trade associations. And that's something that must be very difficult at the moment with your role at the Swedish Foundry Association and connecting with other people through trade associations.
Yes, it sure has been. We have, I mean, this actually works and has worked for these past couple of months and almost a year now. But after a while, you need to meet people to interact with them. And I would like to say that, add to what Marina said, what we have noticed in Sweden is that when it comes to production, a lot of the products that were bought abroad previously actually returned to Sweden in the start of the pandemic, when many were worried that their products wouldn't actually be able to arrive to Sweden. So there has been a bit of a change when it comes to actually purchasing products in Sweden instead of going abroad. And we will see if this will continue after this pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's these changes in the supply chain and the shortening of the supply chain is something that everybody throughout the industry is dealing with at the moment, and looking at different options. And it will be interesting to see how different countries can benefit from that and yet still remain in a global marketplace.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I will also like to, I've worked with communications for a couple of years, and I totally agree with Marina when it comes to the presence online with our foundries. We've noticed both on how they have increased their engagement on social media, but also their webpage they have web pages now that are really good and actually communicate a lot with the external world, so to say.
Yeah, it's social media is certainly very important, isn't it? And I think it's something that our industry was slow to embrace initially, but certainly now it seems to be very important. I just wonder if Lizeth could maybe comment on both of those issues that Diana and Marina were talking about there, that both the supply chain issue and social media. I know that that's something that you're very keen on as well.
Yes. So some of the things regarding social media, not so much in the workspace, but, like as I'm, like member of the Foundry Educational Foundation, when the pandemic hit us here in the United States, a lot of these students, they were not able to attend classes in person. Additionally, many of the internships, like that they were scheduled to have, like were canceled. So we identified that there was an opportunity there, like that if we were not going to act fast, we would have lost, like a generation of students that will be like, well, like I have no connection with this industry. So utilizing social media and internet, we came up with a complete, like calendar of activities, from technical talks to Facebook Live, like seminars regarding personal development, the importance of internships, mentoring, etc. We came up with trivia night. So, like definitely there was, we had to get creative, but we needed to think outside the box to continue the connections, because just like Marina and Diana are saying, the connection is very important. So if they don't hear from you, they will forget about you. And we are just talking about how hard it is to attract new talent. So that was kind of like one of the initiatives that we took in order to, to keep them interested and tell them that we're still here for you, like if you need us, and, also make their lives a little easier.
Yeah, I wonder if the pandemic has actually given everybody an opportunity here to revisit tools that maybe we've dabbled with in the past, and now we're able to get more involved. Yeah, it certainly seems as though we have had to rethink everything in terms of the business model as well. So I just wonder, in terms of your supply chains, has that changed? Has that been something that you've had to rethink in the past 18 months?
Many of our suppliers, fortunately, are local. I think that there is a little bit of a trouble with, like the scrap metal. Unfortunately, there is not you cannot get around that situation. So there is just, like working on strategies, partnerships, and everything. So the impact is a little bit less, like, and just being proactive into what we're seeing. But yeah, fortunately, we have most of our suppliers, that are local.
Yeah. So that's something that there's obviously been a benefit in the past 12 months. Just remuted there. I think another thing that is interesting that we're all sort of adopting at a greater pace these days is Industry 4.0. And I think it would be remiss of us not to contemplate that during this discussion, because of course it's totally relevant for the industry moving forward, and also relevant to attracting new talent to the industry. So I just wondered if you have any comments on that, Lizeth.
Yes. So I think that, like during the pandemic, and I don't know how affect everyone, we were considered an essential business, so we continue operating. However, many of our customers, depending on the locations, like they had to close. So that really affect our operation where, we were not running. We will have to take shutdowns, week-long shutdowns, 2-week-long shutdowns, and that created a problem. That also created the necessity for us to come up with a strategy. How do we get better and faster and create less waste, like when we're working? When people talk about Industry 4.0, I think immediately it comes to their mind, automation, right? And for a smaller foundry, that can sound a little bit, like a little bit intimidating because of the capital. But Industry 4.0 includes also digitalization and easy access to data. And more important than that is what to do with the data. So that was the approach that we took. That was our strategy of implementation for Industry 4.0, where, we focus into 2 aspects. One was we want 0 scrap. 2, we want zero stops. We don't want unplanned, like shutdown. So in the case of scrap, like it was a relatively inexpensive process to start getting connections from, like the key processes within our area, like the metallurgical process, the melt process, the molding process. Start getting that information. And then it was a little bit reactive because we say we will have a problem, and then we will put together the information and do the analysis of data. And it will tell us, like, these are the conditions that you need to run in order to, like reduce the amount of rejections that you will see in your process. We have seen fantastic results, like going that route. With that said, it was like, okay, now we need to continue, like approach other departments and do the same. But in the same time, there is this other aspect, which is the efficiency and productivity. So we did approach, when we saw the benefits of just the use of data in our process, we were able to feel very comfortable and go after a software that will help us to understand the equipment, right? Like what is the machine telling us, how it's running and everything. And again, it was a little investment, but we were able to increase efficiency by 10%. We haven't nailed the preventive maintenance. We haven't reached the goal of like 0 stops. But it's because we're still learning, like to understand what the equipment is telling us. And, we're expecting within the next 12 months to get to that point. But, like a 10% increase on efficiency was something that we were not expecting to have. We were thinking if we get a 5%, we will recover the investment, like in 18 months. So it double. So again, I think Industry 4.0, we have to get into that. It will make us better. It will really help us to get better and potentially, like show savings, either on raw materials because you're using less, you're using the correct raw material, you have less rejections. And I think that when we're talking about how do we make the industry a little bit sexier, this is one of the technologies that, like it's exciting because, just the use of data, it's one part, and it's us, and it has to be on stages. Eventually, the final stage that we are seeing in our industry is like the implementation of artificial intelligence, where, as the data is being fed into the system, it can start telling us, and it can start making changes or adjustments to the process to prevent, something from happening.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that is such an important aspect, and you're right. It does make our industry much more attractive if we're adopting those technologies. And from a health and safety point of view, it's important for training to use artificial intelligence. Certainly, initially, it's a really good way of doing that, and helping those in a situation where they might be on the melt shaft to work with a more safe approach, I guess, to training people. I wonder if I can maybe bring Diana and Marina in on that as well, because of course, Industry 4.0 is something that is affecting the whole world.
Yes. No, in Sweden, this is something that we also worked on, and just as Lizeth says, it's also about analyzing all this data that you actually get, and a lot that we have been talking about is actually competence and education within how to read this data and then actually use it and make something good out of it. As Lizeth said, they had a 10% increase, and that's really good.
Yeah, I think that's most important in being able to capture that information from people like Lizeth and putting it back into the trade association and then passing that information on to other members, and because it is a significant investment, but certainly to have a payback as quickly as we're talking about there, it makes a big difference.
What we try to do in the Swedish Foundry Association is to have different projects that our members usually, some of them participate in it, and through those projects we can learn better in the industry as a whole, but also our members that participate in these specific research projects actually get to learn something as well and take with them in their own production.
I just wonder, Marina, do you have any comments on that?
Well, I can just comment from a kind of promotional point of view here, because I mean, in Spain, we're two different associations which cooperates, and all these technical issues goes through that other association. But what I see, for example, and relating a bit to the image that the Foundry has in general, I mean, our industry is a highly essential industry. You see casted parts everywhere, but I don't think that people are aware of it, and I don't think that official bodies and administrations are aware of it. I think that we are a somewhat penalized industry. We don't count on a very, sexy image, as you say, Lizeth. But now that the foundries are investing more and more in artificial intelligence and digitalization and through big projects, I think that this is what they can take into their promotional strategy, because now our industry is seen as a somewhat ancient and a dirt industry and not a very technological one. But taking this 4.0 into the production, you're allowed as a foundry to finally, prove that we are a technological industry. We're part of this, revolution or digital revolution. And I think that nowadays the foundries, they have understood that and they have adopted this idea. But yeah, I think that. But we as trade association especially need to create conscience about that this technology is accessible to the foundries, because perhaps many big foundries cooperate with partners, so it's easier for them to access. But there are so many small foundries, at least in Spain, that might not, have that easy access. So here I think it's important for us to mentor them through experts.
Yeah. I think that's that's true. And I think you raise a very good point there about the disconnect between the exciting, complex, amazing things that foundries are doing. And we all know how sexy and exciting the components are. And then there's a disconnect between that and the working environment as we portray it, or as it has been portrayed. And actually, it's as important to promote how exciting it can be working within a foundry environment as it is in the end user using that component. And so it's quite interesting that now we have technologies that will enable us to do that. And then suddenly the connection will be made between that Formula One part and then this foundry that's produced it, or this, certainly in the last year, the amount of talk there has been about these critical components in medicine. And then we'll be able to say, well, actually, this is where it came from, and this is the environment you work in, and it's not how you would imagine it, or how we would look at it from days gone by. It's certainly a very different working environment now. And so it's interesting, you know, for yourself and Diana and for Lizeth to talk about how the changes that we're experiencing will allow that message, hopefully, to get across to more people. And to more younger people and their parents, hopefully, when they're looking at career choices. I think whilst we are looking at some of the opportunities and the exciting things that are happening in the industry, again, I think it would be remiss of us not to touch on e-mobility and the opportunities that's going to create in the foundry sector moving forward. And I think that's something that will create an awful lot of opportunities for different foundries, obviously for die casters, but also other foundries. And I know, Diana, that's something that you might want to have a look at. So can you give us a little insight into what Swedish Foundry Association's doing?
Yes, we have, well, this is both a challenge and of course an opportunity for, depending on who you're, from whose perspective you're looking at it. And in the Swedish Foundry in the Swedish Foundry industry, we have together presented actually an industry agenda that address some of these issues and how we're supposed to tackle them in the future, both on a short term and also on a long term. And we're focused on 3 different areas. We're focused on advanced products, competitive and sustainable production, and attractive industry. And when it comes to the first 2, it will probably be a requirement for some of these companies from producing these electrical vehicles to have advanced, for us to produce advanced products when it comes, and we will have to further develop and research in new alloys, including multi-material solutions, smart casted components with sensors in them perhaps, and optimized material solutions. So there are, there's going to be, this will be something that will have to probably be done collectively in Sweden from the Foundry Association, together with the other parts of Foundry, the university in Jönköping, who researches a lot on foundry, on casting, and we also have RISE in Jönköping. So we strive to work to research within this field to open up for our industry. But when it comes, we also see that sustainability will be an important part because producing electrical vehicles the producers will most likely want to have products produced in an environmentally friendly way, and not only seen from the process point of view, but also throughout the entire life cycle of the product. And in Sweden, we already have a pretty low carbon footprint. For example, we are using mostly recycled materials and also recycling our sand and so on, but we still see the possibility of doing better. So we're actually currently starting a huge project where we look at how we can become even more energy efficient, how we can create more resource effective material flow and reuse even more of the recycled materials, and how we can produce resource effective products that can be used and reused again and again. So there are absolutely some work we will have to do to become both an advanced industry when it comes to material, but also when it comes to sustainability. And to be able to do all this, we believe in having skilled workers and co-workers. So there we will have a big job to actually attract these young people, especially into an industry. Yeah, and that's a lot to do with, and then we have to work on the attractiveness, as Lizeth mentioned earlier.
I think that'll be such an important aspect of it, though, won't it, to actually show that it's a sustainable and industry with a conscience and with an ethical attitude. Absolutely. I think that's so important.
Yes.
I think as well for yourself, Diana, in Sweden there's such a good relationship between academia and the industry, and I think that's a real bonus, isn't it?
Yes, well, the collaboration absolutely helps in this, and this big project that I mentioned is something that we're doing together. It's initiated by the industry. It's called Greta. It's initiated by the industry, and we're working together with RISE and Jönköping University in order to actually make this happen and go towards zero emissions.
It's such an exciting time in that respect, and also, as you say, in being able to then use that to attract more people into the industry and skilled professionals. And I just wonder is how can we work globally to do that? How can we link up between all our different countries and associations to help promote the message globally?
Of education, or
yeah.
Well, I think that we have, for example, we have the Foundry Master. It's an education here in Jönköping where that is actually international. So we have students all over the world attending it, and we were actually pretty early with the online courses. So the entire education is done online, and certain parts are done on the foundries where you either work or a foundry close by. So it is a very interesting course that actually is available to apply for. But then also I think that we should also share webinars and look at each other and look at each other's magazines and so on. And I try to oftentimes find interesting articles written in other magazines and present them to the foundry industry in Sweden. So there are different ways, but I think once again we have to. I think that if we want to have good qualified people into industry, I think we have to work with the attractiveness of the industry, as Marina and Lizeth has mentioned. What many people in Sweden particularly don't know the foundry industry exists, and they don't know the importance of it for a modern society. Those who know about the foundry industry think of it as it used to look 60 years ago, maybe. So this illusion, this picture that is that oftentimes will distract this. It will not, and some people will not apply for jobs in the industry just because of this. So it's something that we absolutely have to work on, and this is something we can do on a global level as well.
Yeah, very much. I think this image problem we need to work on, and I know the WFO is tackling that in many aspects, and they have a training and skills development working group that's looking on how to share best practice on matters such as this, and it is a very important. Yeah, you do highlight an issue that I think we are, as an industry, aware of, and really need to tackle quickly to attract the best talents.
Absolutely, and we also have to think about increasing the entire pool of people who can work in the industry. Just looking in Sweden, we have 60% of people attending university are women. However, looking at how many that graduate from with an engineering degree, we're down to 35. So we have this number is increasing for each year, but it still pinpoints the problem that the technical industry isn't as attractive to women as men. So we see this is something that we need to work on, and this is something that we globally can do to create interest among young girls for technology, and then these young girls will eventually grow up to be young women, maybe applying to an engineering school or even the foundry master eventually.
Yeah, it is something that we need to look at a much younger age, attracting more girls to select STEM subjects, and to then, when they have selected them, to continue that in their education, and then to actually take it into a career, so that we're not losing a percentage all along the way. I just wondered if we could maybe bring Lizeth in on this as well, because of her work with the Foundry Educational Foundation, and I'm sure that she's probably got some comments on this as well.
Just hi, I was on mute. Technical here. Yeah, just for everyone, you know, like that doesn't know what the Foundry Educational Foundation, I think that this is a very good initiative that, you know, like happened in the United States during World War II. And it was an organization that was created to make sure that we will have talent that will be working in the foundry industry. Yeah, it was created in the 1940s, and that's basically what they do. You know, like they have a staff that has relationships with universities, has relationships with professors, and we support professors, you know, like to be able to, you know, like bring students into the industry. Every year, the Foundry Educational Foundation hosts, you know, like conference in the city of Chicago. So for many people, that will be their first time going to like a big city. And, you know, we stay in a hotel for 2 days, and there is conferences, you know, from industry people that talk about their experience in the foundry. And we normally choose to have somebody that is just starting in the industry, somebody that has been for about 10 years, and somebody that, you know, has reached, you know, like a very comfortable status. I think that over the years and working with professors at universities, we have been able to increase the number of female students. And I think it also helps that we have female professors, you know, like as you know, like the link between FEF and, you know, like the university. So that definitely helps. It helps that when they come, they see females. I am part of a committee, and this committee is the one that puts together all these activities, because in the past we were not that active, and we realized that, you know, we need to make this fun. We need to make this interactive. We need to make it personal. This committee is mostly females. There is 4 females and 1 male. And we, you know, like do everything from finding volunteers for technical talks. The most recent activity that we're having, we are planning to do during Casting Congress, fun run. It's going to be a fitness challenge where we, you know, we're trying to target what this generation likes to do, right? They want to be active, they want to do things. And at first we wanted to do running, and it's like, no, let's just biking, walking, running, whatever. All what we care is for you to log the miles that you did, and at the end, the person with the most mileage is going to win. And we're trying to also make teams, so, you know, like also teams can get awards and everything. So it's a matter of, you do need something like FEF. I think that FEF has allowed us to continue with a pipeline of students, and, you know, like we need to support with ideas and activities. How do we want to, you know, like continue making this relevant?
Yeah, and I think that's very important that you say that you need to know what is important to this generation, this next generation, and to channel things so that we're actually talking to people in their language, and not assuming that we know what they're interested in.
Because I think, unfortunately, with the demand right now, you know, like they have the last word, right? So we need to target. I mean, it is what is happening. Before, you know, like there were different times where you can, you know, you either adapt to me or, you know, like don't come. Well, we're not on those times anymore. You know, like we're in times where demand for young talent is high. So we need to be able to change and listen.
Yeah, and I think it's heartening to know that that's understood, and that's, I mean, that's, you know, from the 1940s, that's certainly something that's been happening for many decades then, and explains why you've got an industry that's booming and buoyant and developing and bringing people through and solving the skills gap. And I think that's something that we can all learn from and hopefully develop moving forward.
And FEF does a great job, you know, like at attracting talent. Now it's up to the industries, you know, like let's retain it. You know, and I think that what we have seen is that if the students stay for 5 years, you know, like that's it, you know, like they're going to stay in the industry. Some other industries may get attracted to, you know, again, sexier industries because opportunities and everything. So that's when now it's up to the industries to come out with strategies to retain talent.
Yeah, I think that's vitally important, because we do talk a lot about attracting talent, and you're absolutely right that we need to retain the talent and develop the talent, and so that is something that is very important. I just wonder, I note that we're coming towards the end of the session. Remarkably, it's gone very quickly, so I just wondered if we've got any final comments from anybody. Diana? Or Marina, if anybody's got any final comments that they'd like to make.
I'm having a bit of trouble with the technical. Well, I think that one thing that I haven't mentioned is that what you also talked about, Lizeth talked about talking in this language of the young. In Sweden, we often, when we look at younger kids, younger adults today, they're very interested in sustainability and in actually not just taking a job, but also making a difference, working at a company that actually makes a difference. And here I think we can use sustainability and the work that we do there to actually promote the industry and make it more attractive.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think there's a moral compass, and certainly our youth today understand the importance of sustainability, and they understand their responsibilities, and it's something that the wider mass media is talking about a lot. So yeah, I do agree that would be a factor when looking at a career choice.
One, just to add on that, so we are at the Dr. Lyon Society, we you know, like we brought up, you know, we bring pretty young people just right out of school, and one of them he came up with an idea that, hey guys, there is no life cycle analysis done on cast iron. He's like, there is nothing. That's like a gap that we're missing, and that's kind of like a good marketing opportunity to, you know, show that cast iron is recycling, you know, like, so it can be a pretty green and sustainable industry. And he was also talking about how important it will be for his generation, you know, like to show that, you know, we care about that and look at how green this industry is. So definitely, you know, like when you talk about that, you know, like the younger generations, that's on point. And I think that embracing and supporting their ideas is going to only benefit us.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, and I think it's nice to have that collective understanding of that. I did note that we have some questions coming in, quite a few suggestions, if you just bear with me, and some comments coming in speaking about the importance of mentoring. Let's have a look at this one. This is from Angela Taylor. Having worked for foundries and forges since 1988 and successfully run sales at a global level, most young people do not have the chance to understand what roles are available in the not very sexy side of engineering. Mentoring is vital. In the UK, we are pursuing this through STEM-based activities. But the number of women in UK foundries is still incredibly low when you consider senior roles. I concur, that is true in the UK. How would you suggest we truly put the word out to women? I am passionate about this industry, as you can see, after 34 years.
I think that definitely Reaching out to universities closer to your, closer to your foundry is going to be great. Reaching out to universities, or even, if allowed, high school, so they can go and do tours, like at your facility, and just look at, even if there is not enough women in senior management, I think that will be more of a company culture, but for the students to see that, what is being done, see the final product, like you need these pieces, otherwise you wouldn't eat, farming has evolved so much just to make it simple because of, the foundry industry. So just having them to go through the facility and see that, the work that they're doing is meaningful and that there is diversity, meaning males and females, I think that may make an impact, and maybe that will be a good start to, do something. But I think definitely that will be a good opportunity, reaching out to universities closer, or technical college.
Yeah, yes, I agree. And also it's being there where young people are. We're currently creating a campaign where we actually are going to market the Swedish foundry industry on social media such as Instagram and Facebook, where we actually see that the younger people are. And by doing that, we can also show them the work that we're doing when it comes to sustainability, but also where they can apply for different high schools and colleges and so on, in order to further get involved with the industry. So also be where the people that you want to talk to are.
Yeah. So in many respects, we can provide a route map to show career progression.
Absolutely. And I think that today that is something that we have, but we are not that good at talking about it. Just as there's so many things that we're good at sustainability, but we don't tell anybody about it. We have all these technological advances, but we're not that good at talking about them. So we have to be better about telling what's good with the industry.
And then I think that, as Diana says, and Lizeth as well, I think that sustainability within the foundry industry is a very big challenge. I think that we recycle really much within the production, but I also think there's very much more to be done that has not yet been invented. So it can be a call as well. It could be a teaser for these very conscious young students. As you said, Lizeth, the person that came up with this idea, there are lots of ideas, and I think it's an industry, since it's an essential industry and we cannot prevent to have it, we will have to align it with, all the sustainable regulations. And so I think it's very important.
Yeah, and I think when you consider that the foundry industry is the original recycler, an industry that takes scrap metal and then turns it into relative components that ensure that the entire world keeps moving. I think it is important that's come full circle, in effect, that now we're talking about sustainability, and we're actually talking about not just sustainability of the process, but of the industry in terms of attracting people to make the industry sustainable. So it's an interesting point to end on, I think, to look at that and to say, well, we need to take these elements that are important to people and really run with it. So I'm enthused that everybody feels the same about that. I think we have, in effect, come to the end of our hour, and it's flown by very quickly. I'm sure we could carry on talking much longer, since we're all speaking the same language and in effect promoting the same message. And that is the importance of our industry and the importance of promoting that message to those that haven't quite understood that yet. But I think in summary, I'd just like to thank everybody for taking part. We do appreciate the time and the effort that you've put in, and we do also appreciate your desire to pass the message on to other people. It's an industry that I think we all love. We're building our careers in it, and it's an incredible industry. And just as you say, Lizeth, it's not until somebody walks around a foundry and you bring people in and they see the molten metal and they see the exciting things that are happening, right from, you know, reverse engineering, everything in all departments, that they actually start to understand what we're talking about and start to get a feel for it. And just as Marina said, it gets under your skin and you end up staying in the industry then for your entire career, understandably, because it's such an exciting industry to work in. I'd just like to look at some of the things we've discussed. I love the idea, better, faster, creating less waste, as Lizeth pointed out, and the fantastic results that you've got from some of the investments you've made. Talking in the language of the young, I think that is very important and something we need to look at, providing a route map. And I think the links in Sweden between academia, industry and people is so important. And that's good to see that we have that. I think, if anything, I'm full of optimism at the end of that discussion. I think that we've got an awful lot happening in the sector, new markets, adaptation of existing ones, new processes, materials. We have a combination now of local and global supply chains. We've just been through a very difficult period and survived it and shown that we can be adaptable and flexible, as we all know. And there's also progress in terms of training and skills development. And that's happening globally, and we're sharing that information. That's the most important thing, to share the information. So I think there are plenty of opportunities in this industry for men and women, and we need to promote that as much as possible. So I think all there is for me to do now is to thank everybody for taking part, to thank everybody who has listened to the presentations today. I do look forward to meeting up with everybody at a World Foundry Congress in the future. Our World Foundry Technical Forum are one of the many member association events that are held throughout the country and throughout the world. So thank you very much. And I think it's nothing but positive news. Thank you, everybody. Bye.